This is scary. Hello, welcome to Guide to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And this week we are talking about two Disney princesses who have darkness lurking beneath the surface of their shiny hair and gorgeous dresses.
Secrets inside.
That's right.
What lurks behind those smiles? Mm-hmm. Actually, mine is just mostly kind of just like a nice person.
Oh, yeah. No,
the princess
nice
herself
person.
is, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just that...
surrounded by darkness.
The stories themselves.
I know.
Itchy weechy.
I know. Itchy weechy.
Yeah.
Mine actually gets witchy. There's a full-on witch in my story.
Ooh, so itchy weechy.
Yeah, I've had a hankering, and I couldn't quite put a finger on why, especially. I've had a hankering for digging into Grimm's fairy tales lately. And we looked back. You know, part of it is that I took Zoe to the bookstore and picked up a Grimm's fairy tales. Like, they always have those, like, massive collections that are made to look like old antique books. And I can never decide if they're cheap or something that I definitely want on my shelf.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But so I just open up to a random page and, like, you know, you think about fairy tales and a handful of them immediately spring to mind.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that we're going to talk about today, in fact. But the one that had opened to it was like, the frog, the ass, and the big bucket of gold.
Right.
I was like,
you're like, oh, okay.
What is this?
All of our favorites.
And so it occurred to me, it might be fun to look at the Grimm's fairy tales, which are supposed to be some of the gnarliest, you know, versions of these fairy tales of all time.
Yeah.
That they've had to be sanitized by Disney, and they're always trying to take the blood and gore out of them. Well, we thought, why don't we take a look at some of those original stories, see how gnarly they are.
Yeah.
And if it's fun enough, maybe we will eventually do some of the more obscure stuff, like the frog, the toad, and the bucket of chode.
Right.
Or whatever these other tales are. I don't know. But so to that end, we do have, I think, two big heavy hitters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to cover Cinderella.
I'll be talking about Snow White.
That's right. And we did do an episode covering some more obscure Grimm's fairy
That
tales
is true.
in the past.
It was episode 120. It was so long ago that it faded into the mists of memory.
Yep.
I hardly recalled it whatsoever. But I'm thrilled to revive it. And maybe this will be, enter our rotation of things that we do. Who's to say? I also want to say, for anybody who is listening in real time, I'm just thinking about these princesses who have this, you know, like glowing smile, but there are all these secrets surrounding them and a whole world of scary stuff unfolding behind them.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening right now, you should be watching Twin Peaks Season 2. We're going to be covering Part 1 of Season 2 next week.
Yep.
So get watching. That's the first 16 episodes. It's more than halfway.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt the show. It's Will as the editor right now. I need to make a correction. We said to watch the first 16 episodes of Season 2 of Twin Peaks. We are wrong. Do not watch that. That is way too many episodes. You should be watching up until episode 9 of Season 2, which confusingly is titled Episode 16. Alternate title, Arbitrary Law. I hope that's enough information. It's too much to get into. I don't want to get in the weeds. The numbering of the episodes of Twin Peaks is a complete mess. They just titled them officially Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. At the end of Season 1, they just keep going. The first episode of Season 2 is officially titled Episode 8. But it's also the 9th episode, technically. It's a huge mess. Anyway, to clarify, watch the first 9 episodes of Season 2 of Twin Peaks, ending with the episode titled Episode 16, a.k.a. Arbitrary Law. Who knew that Twin Peaks could be so confusing? Oh, what a surprise. Anyway, sorry for the confusion. I am still confused myself. Back to the show. But so if you need to know, now you know.
Yeah.
Let's dive into these other fairy tale girls, not just Princess Laura Palmer.
Of course. We're basically covering the part of Season 2 that wraps up the Who Killed Laura Palmer storyline.
Correct.
All right. Okay, so let's do a little commercial break, then we're going to come back and keep yapping.
Yes. All right, princess time.
Well, almost.
Oh.
First, we've got a little prince who has a little story of his own to tell.
Oh, I thought you wanted to do it like mid-show.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, listen. All right. I've got a fun announcement. I sort of like teased this at some point. I don't remember when now. I've got a book coming out.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's a book called Survive the Night. and it comes out on March 18th. You can literally pre-order it right now on Amazon. I'm going to have links in the show notes. It's going to be on the shelves at Target. It's going to be on the shelves at Walmart. So you can shop online or you can shop in person. It is a killer coloring adventure, we call it. It's a choose-your-own-adventure book, but it's also a comic book, but it's also a coloring book.
Yep.
And
talk about choose your own adventure.
I know. Yes, you can truly choose your own adventure. It results in some. You're dropped into this slasher situation at a cabin by a lake, with a group of characters. Lots of references. I like to put references and things in there. Let's see if maybe Kristen can catch one real quick. Here's from page 1. Welcome to beautiful Anderson Lake.
Oh my God. Is that my last name?
Well, and hold the phone. Your new friend Kristen has invited you to a weekend getaway at her boyfriend Ryan Loomis's family cabin.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Kristen is the main character in this book.
That is my name, and my husband's name is Ryan.
And Loomis, of course.
Yes.
There's a Billy Loomis.
That's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm in major trouble.
So this is going to be dropping very, very soon as this episode releases, but we also get to do something fun. The publisher is giving us 5 copies.
The publisher, Simon and Schuster.
Simon and Schuster.
But no, the publisher is Simon and Schuster.
Yeah, it's Inside Editions through Simon and Schuster.
Yowie wowie.
We've got 5 copies to give away, and we want to do something fun with it. So it's going to be essentially a raffle. What I want folks out there to be doing, go on social media. I'm talking Blue Sky. I'm talking Instagram. I'm talking Facebook. I want you to tag at GTTUpod and say that you want to survive the night.
Yeah.
You think you can survive the night.
So you're saying hashtag survive the night.
Do
right?
hashtags? I'm not even sure
okay,
of hashtags,
okay.
but just say the phrase. Tag us. The most important part is to tag us so that I see it. And boom, your name is entered into the raffle to win one of the 5 copies. But not only that, there's a second way that you can get your name into that bucket of names. And that's that already, right now, if you're a patron, if you're a ghost tier or up on patreon.com/GTTUpod, your name is already entered.
Yeah.
Your name is already in the raffle. So you can have 2 entries. Be you a ghost, banshee, or demon on patreon.com/GTTUpod. And if you post, I want to survive the night at GTTUpod, boom, you're entered twice for a chance to win one of the copies of Survive the Night. So go do that. I'm going to be drawing names on Monday the 17th. Maybe I'll even do that live. And get those copies out to people. So thank you all so much. I hope that you enjoy the book. It's super fun, super wild to write a choose your own adventure. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
Let alone writing like in the style of a comic book.
Right.
And it's cool because it's this coloring book thing. So as you go down these paths to try to make the right decisions, so many of them end in splash pages of absolute gore. Again, the main character is Kristen, not illustrated after Kristen.
Yeah.
But named after Kristen. And Kristen, spoiler alert, dies about 1,000 times. The real sort of thing I wanted to do is, can you kind of get Kristen to the end of the book?
Yes, that's your
kind
motivation.
of the game. Yeah.
Save me, everybody.
Yes. So Survive the Night, find it on Amazon, find it on the shelves at Target and Walmart on the 18th, and tag us on social media, sign up on Patreon, and boom, we're going to do some drawing and get some copies out to people. And I hope people really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, so check it out.
How cool is that?
Very fun. Very, very fun.
Oof. All right. Okay, now we can talk princesses. Good job, little prince. I think that is so cool, William.
It's just me, baby prince over here.
It's insane.
It's fun. It's one of those things that's been like a long time coming.
Yep.
You know, obviously I've known that this was happening for quite some time.
Yep.
But it's nice to actually be able to say like, hey, it's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, do you want me to give you a little break from talking? I'll talk about Cinderella.
Would you please? My pipes
Yes.
need to rest.
Of course, you need to rest your instrument. Okay, so I'm actually going to talk about what happens in the Disney movie first, just in case people don't remember.
I did the same
to
thing.
tell you the truth,
Yeah.
because, you're like, oh, of course I know what Cinderella is, but like, you just might not really remember enough to be able to compare and contrast effectively.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you about what happens in the Grimm's fairy tale that departs from that story in cuckoo and violent ways.
Yes, the sanitized version and then the Grimm original.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is quite grim. All right, so the Disney movie came out in 1950, and I would say that's kind of become the canon version for most people because it was just so super duper popular. That's you kind of really what you think of.
I think most of the Disney stuff is what you think of.
Definitely.
So much so that like I looked up some horror versions of Snow White, and they are all riffing off of the Disney adaptation.
Same. I did the same thing, and it's just ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'll just jump to that. There were 2 horror versions of Snow White that came out in 2024. It was Cinderella, or no, did I just say Snow White?
I don't know.
Well, I meant Cinderella.
I try not to listen when you speak.
William! There were 2 Cinderella horror movies that came out in 2024. Cinderella's Curse and Cinderella's Revenge. Cinderella's Curse had a 3.3 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oof.
And not enough ratings on Rotten Tomatoes to even have a score. And was apparently just really, really bad. What I was reading about it was that it was barely even about Cinderella. They just kind of like used the name Cinderella and then just kind of took off from there.
I am so confused sometimes by these movies because especially in the last handful of years with like actually more Disney with like Steamboat Willie entering the public domain, the mad dash to make a Steamboat Willie horror movie. They're like it.
Have we really been chomping at the bit for this? Why is there this mad dash? I guess it's successful, so I'm wrong.
I guess no one's ever
to me.
Hey, no one's ever parodied Mickey Mouse before. Yeah, so this is fresh, fertile ground.
Finally.
It just like it's already stale. And my stance has always been with like, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey and stuff. I'm like, the premise alone of Winnie the Pooh is a monster. I'm like, oh, it feels like I already saw the movie.
Totally.
I don't need to actually see it now. I don't need 90 minutes. But on top of that, the startling thing to me is what that review points out about that Cinderella movie. It's like a lot of these seem like they don't actually want to play with the source material at all.
Yeah.
They want to make a quote unquote horror movie or slasher. And then the framework of the story is almost an afterthought of like Cinderella and who she is and what she does and Winnie the Pooh and what he's like and his characterization.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that's not instantly part of the ambition to really take the core elements that everyone knows and then twist them. Everyone just makes a generic thing and then, oh my God, he looks like Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, exactly. But she's wearing a Cinderella dress.
Okay, what's the point?
I don't know. The other one was called Cinderella's Revenge. That apparently had a more Cinderella-y plot. Judging by the same IMDb metric, it had a 3.7 out of 10. But it does have a Rotten Tomatoes score. Enough people saw it, but it's a 32%. So still not good. So going back to the 1950s, though.
Yes.
Do you remember watching Cinderella when you were a kid? I loved this movie. I was a big Cinderella head.
I definitely remember it being present when I was a kid, like especially the mice.
Yeah.
Like all her friends who are mice.
Gus. Love
Gus in particular trying to hold on to all those corn niblets.
Yeah.
I always loved how he had, because he's the greedy fat mouse. So he's got all these corn niblets and he's holding them low and balancing them on the top with his chin. When he gets scared or something and the corn niblets go flying, there are a handful of things in animation as a kid that I remember being like, that's mind blowing. And those niblets going flying one after another, it looked like 3D to me. It looked like Avatar to me when I was a kid. It did.
Yes.
But I didn't have much memory of the actual story, but I just remember being ever present.
Yes, I think I watched it a lot. And honestly, I didn't rewatch it for this. I just kind of like read the plot to refresh my memory. There were things about it that I was like, oh God, that's right. There are things about it that actually are scary. Her stepmother's pretty scary.
Yes.
Lady Tremaine.
I
didn't remember that was her name.
I watched it with Zoe in the last couple of years, and she really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I remember her kind of being into it. All right, so here's what happens. Cinderella's father marries a woman with 2 children from a previous marriage. It's funny to think of it that way, even though that it must be true.
Yes.
But it's not phrased that way in the movie. And then he passes away. They are hella mean to her. They bully her, and the mom makes her do all the chores. And the stepmom's name is Lady Tremaine, which is an amazing name. And the stepdaughters' names are Anastasia and Drizella. There's a ball coming up because the king wants grandchildren, and it's all for the prince to meet a mate. And Cinderella really wants to go. All eligible maidens in the land are invited, so technically she's in, but the stepmother gives her a huge list of chores to do so that she'll be like too busy to go. She blows through them, but even then, it's like, well, what's she gonna wear anyway? She only has rags, and they're not gonna buy her something. And actually, I always thought she looked so cute and stylish in the Disney version.
Yeah.
I thought she looked great.
Even in the rags, you mean?
Yes, she looked so adorable. She had those little flats, and I always have found aprons very chic, like a little half apron that she wears. I thought she looked great. So her sweet little animal friend surprised her by zhuzhing up a dress of her mother's with found items from the home, beads and a sash that the stepsisters threw away. But once Cinderella's all dressed up and ready to go, the stepsisters recognize their stuff and they literally they rip her dress apart.
This is
These
crazy.
assholes.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, my sash. And they just like rip everything off of her. It's so mean.
It's violent.
Yes,
it's even in the Disney movie.
Yes.
The funny thing looking back is like, just like the march of time in a sense, the Grimm's fairy tales were said to be too gnarly.
Right.
And then Disney came along and has the phrase Disneyfying something means make it toothless. But looking back at the Disney movies, they're too scary by today's standards for a lot of the time. And I remember watching Cinderella getting her dress ripped by her sisters. Like it's like shot like some sort of like a Giallo movie.
Yeah.
Like there are all these colors, explosions of color as she's being ripped apart. Really, it's
She's
wild.
being wrenched back and forth between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. So then she's like, all right, I'm not going now, until her fairy godmother appears and she magics her up a new dress. I'm not totally clear on like, who is this woman and why is she here? I'm glad she's here.
Yeah,
Please
just,
don't misunderstand. But
an unusual,
why has this happened?
deranged stranger.
Yeah, right. She's not, she just says like, oh, I'm your fairy godmother, dear. But like, why?
Why?
And why are you coming in now? Like
Couldn't you have come in before?
Exactly. Like, all right, I'm glad. I do want to go to this ball, but I've been abused for like most of my life by this point.
Right.
If you could have come in a little bit earlier, that would have been nice.
Well,
but
because all there is
better late than never.
is a prince.
Yeah, totally.
Right. That's the true safety is get to the prince.
Yeah, because then he'll take care of it. But so she magics her up her new dress. She turns a pumpkin into a stagecoach, so that will take her to the ball. And she turns Cinderella's small mouse friends, whose names are Jacques and Gus, into coachmen to drive her. And the fairy godmother just warns Cinderella that she has to be back at midnight because that's when the magic will wear off. So Cinderella goes to the ball. She's having a time. She really connects with the prince, but then she catches someone else's eye. Lady Tremaine is like, wait, who is this elegant swan? She looks like my disgusting stepdaughter. So Cinderella is like, I remember this when I was a kid because this part was scary to me. She's dancing with Prince Charming. We never find this man's name out, which I appreciate,
Literally
by
named
the way.
Prince Charming, yeah.
They're dancing. The song So This Is Love is playing. I love this song. It's a great song. But then the music kind of changes and we see Lady Tremaine's face look at Cinderella and narrow her eyes. And it's like, oh God, something sinister is happening.
Yeah.
I love it. So that happens and it's getting close to midnight. So Cinderella realizes that she has to haul ass and she and the prince never even get to exchange names. The king, who's like, oh good, he's connecting with somebody. He's going to sire children for me. Sees like this potential baby like maker running away. And it's like, oh no. And he's like, guards. So he sends guards after her.
Oh my God, I forgot that.
Yes.
I also didn't think about it that way. You're right. He's like, trap the woman.
Yeah. Yeah. But this whole thing is because he wants
She
grandchildren.
will give me a male heir,
That's what the ball.
or she can live in the dungeons.
That's what the ball is for. It's
Jesus,
because
it's a trap.
It's because the king wants grandchildren. So he
The whole thing's a trap.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And then it quite literally is a trap in the Grimm's version. But anyway.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah, the king calls the guards on her. But she makes it away. So sly is she. But she leaves behind one of her shoes, a glass slipper. which is left on the stairs. The magic undoes itself at midnight, but not the shoes. What? Why?
Yeah, the shoe just remains.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Everything
interesting.
else is undone.
What did the shoe used to be? You know how her carriage used to be
Totally.
a pumpkin?
Yes.
What was it?
I don't know. A mason jar? But
Mud pie? Cow pie?
right. But no, both of them stay glass slippers, but whatever. So the prince tells the king that he will absolutely not marry anyone else except for that mysterious woman that he danced with. And the only clue that they have as to who she is this shoe. So the king sends around this little soldier that he has named the Grand Duke all through the land, trying the shoe on like every woman of childbearing age in the village. And the one that the shoe fits must be the one that the prince danced with.
Yes.
This is an insane way to find out who the woman is. The prince isn't even the one on the prowl. Like, why?
Yeah, send the guy who doesn't know what she looks like at all.
Why wouldn't he even be there to verify?
Ask all these women to show feet.
For free. Couldn't be me. No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy.
It's totally
I mean,
crazy.
setting aside the fact that obviously people have the same shoe size, why wouldn't the prince even come with to be like, oh yes, this is the woman?
They didn't get the glass slipper from Payless. I don't think it was like a shoe size. I think it's like a fitted.
Oh, you're right. That is a good point.
Like it's like a
pretty bespoke.
A form fitted shoe.
I disagree. Even so.
Well, Cinderella has a sixth toe. And so
I think I could fit into potentially somebody's like in the ballpark of size 9 bespoke shoe.
You think so, Drizella?
I do. I do. So yeah, the Grand Duke is going around fitting shoes, and they hit the chateau, Cinderella's house, and Cinderella is like, also, this is weird to me. She didn't know that was the prince she was dancing with, which is kind of surprising to me. But I guess she's just so sheltered because they just make her like clean all day.
Yeah.
So she hears that this is the situation. They're going around doing this, and she's like, "Oh my god, that was the prince I was dancing with, and he has my shoe. Oh my god, this is great." And so she's getting ready to be like, "Oh my god, I think that I'm going to marry the prince. Like, this happened to me." So she's excited and she's humming "So This Is Love." Lady Tremaine hears Cinderella humming "So This Is Love." Those eyes narrow once again. So
she is wonderfully
I love her.
Arch evil, she really is imposing.
Yeah. She's great.
The stakes of the Disney version, even to say that it's violent when her dress is getting ripped apart might feel hyperbolic, but when you watch the movie,
No, it is. From what I remember,
Lady Tremaine is really portrayed like she's the devil.
Oh yeah,
she is scary. It's so good.
Totally, but also a style icon because if you remember, Lady Tremaine spends a lot of time in bed in a canopy bed with an evil cat on top of her.
Yeah,
if
right.
only.
Isn't the cat's name Satan or something?
Yeah, it's Lucifer.
And the mice will go, "It's Lucifer."
Yeah.
And
this movie is good.
Doesn't Lady Tremaine have that butt hair like Dracula?
What? Oh, yes.
She has high ass cheek hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her head hair is styled so that each half of her part goes to the back and it's like a butt.
Yeah, it's like a butt. It's where Gary Oldman figured it out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, she kicks ass. So
and wears ass.
She does. So yeah, this part, I remember this part being like, oh God, no. Cinderella is so excited. She's like, "So this is love." And Lady Tremaine is like, because oh God, it's so good.
Yeah.
And so she narrows her eyes. Now she knows the score. She locks Cinderella in the attic so the Grand Duke can't have her foot. And then Cinderella is crying. She's like, "No, you can't do this. No, please let me up." I'm feeling emotion right now.
Yeah, how rare is that? You say that like you can't believe it.
Tingle. It's like, oh God, she's so happy, and then it's just, oh God, okay. So then the stepsisters are down there trying to squeeze into the slipper, and they can't. It's grotesque. Their feet are getting in there,
they're rubber banding.
Yeah, it's disgusting. The top of their foot is up out of the shoe, but their heel and toe is able to fit in it, and then it'll just pop all the way off.
Boing.
It's gross.
Yeah.
It's grotesque. Cinderella's animal friends are able to save her and get her out of the room. But seeing this, Lady Tremaine is still like, I'll find a way no matter what, and trips the Grand Duke when he is on his way to fit her with the shoe and is like, oops, guess you'll never know if she's the one, because it breaks the shoe.
Oh, it breaks the shoe.
Right. But then Cinderella pulls the other slipper out of her pocket. And she's like, that's okay. We can do it with this one. So it's like, oh my God, she's definitely the one. She has the other goddamn shoe, puts it on, and that bitch fits like a shoe.
What? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Of course.
I'm with you.
Hell
Sorry,
yeah.
I got a little startled for a moment, but
'Cause
that bitch fits like a shoe.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Triumphant. Hell yeah. So she and the prince, unnamed, are married, and they kiss as they drive away in a carriage that will presumably not turn into a pumpkin.
And
That's my bit
them.
of fun.
Crush them as it turns back into a pumpkin.
Right.
And I think actually, if you pay attention just off in the margins, you can see Lady Tremaine being hanged. They just drop her, and the noose goes taut.
Snap.
Right. That's what the snap to black is on credits. The crack of her
she's
neck.
Terrible.
It's
How evil.
Horrifying. Have you seen the sequels?
No.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. It's I have time travel's involved. I didn't see the third one, but there is time travel in the third one.
What's that?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
I would think. Okay, so now here are the changes from the original Grimm's fairy tales version. You know, the story is largely in the grandest
The
strokes
same, but yeah.
but here are the things that are changed and that are like, oh, okay, yikes. Good edit, I suppose, Disney. Okay, so in the original Grimm's version, and it's in the show notes. It's online. You can just read it. It's from like some college website or something. All right. The dad doesn't die who marries the evil stepmom. He just lives with all of them and allows the stepmother and stepsisters to abuse Cinderella.
He's just fine with it.
He's just fine with it and is pretty shitty himself. Like, he's mostly like at a remove, but like here and there does things where you're like, I don't know about this guy. What the
Yeah.
hell's going on here?
I did read a little bit. I sort of like boned up on the Grimm brothers a little bit and read that because they were basically doing what, scary stories to tell in the dark is. They were just getting people to tell them local folk tales
Right.
and then writing sort
Compiling.
of the prime version of it. And they even changed some of their stories over time because they were criticized when they first published them because they were too gnarly.
Yeah.
So this goes back forever. People being like, these are too scary, defang.
Yeah, a little much.
But so some of the stuff they said, you know how like there's that the cliche of the wicked stepmother, which obviously is in Cinderella and is sort of in Snow White even. And people are like, that's not fair to stepmothers.
Yeah.
Well, originally they were just mothers.
Ah.
A lot of the time. I don't know for sure for Cinderella, but it was originally that the actual birth mothers were essentially vilifying and sometimes like trying to murder their daughters. And the Grimm brothers were criticized for their stories being too scary. So they were like, okay. Then the real, it's not the mother. It's
Yeah.
the stepmother.
Yeah.
But then came the new cliche of all the moms are dead in all
Right.
these stories. And now stepmothers are evil. And it's like,
Right.
even when you try to sanitize something, you just make it a new mistake.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who can you trust?
Right. Hubba. Who do you trust?
I honestly was thinking that in my head. Thank you. So in the original version, there isn't a fairy godmother. There's a magical bird that grants her wishes. And this bird hangs out on a tree by Cinderella's mother's grave, a tree that grew by being watered by the many tears Cinderella cried over her mother.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yikes. Very sad. And also, I recognize a lot of these plot points because they're in Into the Woods.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That one, unsurprisingly, hews very close to the original story. So, in the original, it's actually a golden shoe rather than a glass slipper. And the prince gets it through trickery, not just by Cinderella just leaving it on the stairs. So this whole part is all nuts. So the ball in the original story is a 3-night event. It's not just like one ball. And Cinderella runs away from him the first 2 nights. The first night, she jumps into a pigeon coop.
Oh, my
That's
God.
for some reason nearby enough.
Can you imagine how nasty a pigeon
I was
coop is?
thinking the same thing. That dress is getting absolutely ruined.
So when she shows up on night 2, she's covered in feathers and pigeon duke?
In bird dirt.
Bird dirt. Very good.
Oh, God.
Very good.
So she's got a real thing with these birds. A bird, gives her the dress, the shoes, all of that, coming down from the tree that she's talking to and praying to, essentially. And then to escape the prince, she jumps into a pigeon coop. And there isn't really, it's...
Can you go running back to the tree and go, can you clean this dress?
I guess I
You
think
gave it to me. Can you wash the dress now?
That's not made clear. And also, I didn't write it, and now I'm kind of doubting myself. I don't think that there isn't like a midnight... Is there? Now I'm not sure whether I just didn't write it because I was like, this is the same as in the Disney version or not, or whether like a midnight thing where the bird is like, you must be back at midnight.
Right.
I'm not sure now, but I don't know. I don't know why she ran away so fast. I wrote, is she just kind of afraid of change, even if it's a good change, and that's why she ran away from the prince? So that makes me wonder if there wasn't a midnight deadline, and that's why she ran away. I don't know. But here's another strange thing with her dad. Cinderella's dad is at the ball when this is going on, and her dad comes by while the prince is like scratching his head and being like, I don't know why this woman ran away from me. And the prince tells him about this whole thing. It's very unclear whether the prince and Cinderella's dad had any prior relationship. It's unremarked upon. It's not like, oh, and Cinderella's dad, who is the prince's footman, yada, yada. It's just Cinderella's dad came by. And he thinks to himself, could that have been Cinderella who ran away? Her dad. And so he breaks apart the pigeon coop with an axe to see if she's hiding in there. But she has already bounced. She's already out of there. And when he and the evil stepmother and the stepsisters get home, she's just all dirty by the fire again. Like, oh, hello, Papa. Like she's just been there all night and acts like nothing happened. Okay. So it's just like, I don't know. The second night of the ball, same thing happens. She has a nice night with the prince, I guess, by all appearances, but then decides before the night ends that she's going to run away again. And she gets away by climbing a pear tree, quote, as nimbly as a squirrel.
That's kind of alarming.
Totally. What's going on with Cinderella?
The squirrels don't even slow down.
No. I know. I was thinking she sped up that thing so fast. Same deal. Cinderella's dad is suspicious. He came around again. The prince, again, is like, oh, this woman ran away again. So he chops down the tree to see if she's still up there.
He's prepared to burn down the whole village.
Absolutely. But she's long gone again. The third night, the prince gets wise. He set a trap, as the story says, and he spreads pitch all over the stairs, which happens in Into the Woods, which is, by the way, a musical that takes a bunch of different Grimm's fairy tales and kind of like mixes them all together. And I
love it.
It's awesome. He spreads pitch all over the stairs, which is like sticky sap stuff from a tree, to stick her in place when she runs away. Now, I was thinking he got lucky because the first two nights, she didn't run away down the stairs. She jumped into a pigeon coop and absolutely hauled ass up a tree like a squirrel. Yeah. So, I don't know. He lucked out. And so she does run down the stairs. It does stick her in place, but she just keeps going. However, it does leave a golden shoe behind.
Okay.
And now this is a clue that he's going to use to, I would say, hunt her down.
I would argue that Disney, some of the job wasn't entirely making things more safe for children. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was streamlining. 3 nights?
Yes.
How about 1?
Yes, totally.
1 night. Boom.
And again, I mentioned it already, but the dad stuff was really confusing. Just him being there and talking to the prince and trying to find her. It was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Why?
what are you talking about?
He doesn't know that it's Cinderella. It's just a coincidence. It was really weird. So he has the shoe now. The same trying the shoe on with the ladies bit happens, but the prince is there for it, not just the Grand Duke or whatever. But this is what might be the most well-known divergence between the two stories and the goriest bit. Instead of the stepsister's feet just not fitting and them moving on or whatever and being like, oh, you're obviously not the fair maiden, the stepsisters chop off bits of themselves to fit into the shoe.
This is crazy.
One sister cuts off her heel to fit into the shoe, and the other sister cuts off her big toe. Damn.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. And blood is pouring out of the shoes. So they almost get away with it. Like the prince sees that their foot is in the shoe and says like, okay, you fit the shoe. We're doing this. We're getting married. And they get on his horse to ride away together back to the castle. But there's the main magic bird that gives her like the dress, the shoes and everything. But she has a special relationship with multiple magic birds. And these magic birds narc on the sisters each time and tell the prince the deal as they are riding away on the horse. So the story says, quote, they had to ride past the grave, and there on the hazel tree sat the two pigeons, these other birds, crying out, "Rook-de-goo, rook-de-goo, there's blood in the shoe. The shoe is too tight. The bride is not right." And this happens for each sister.
All right. Two notes.
Yeah.
2 notes. It sounds like some combination. The two birds could be played by Jack Black and Andy Bernard. Rid-up-dick-de-doo.
Rid-up-dip-de-doo. Yeah.
Risk-ib-de-doo.
Yeah.
And then like a Johnny Cochran kind of rhyme. Blood in the shoe. The shoe is tight.
Will.
The bride's not right.
Wow.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got something cooking here.
Yeah,
Is Johnny Cochran available? Is he taking roles?
No.
Okay. So
I'm pretty sure he's passed.
Oh, quite past, I believe.
Yeah.
So interesting. Do we think the birds are somehow emissaries of the ghost of Cinderella's mom?
You could certainly draw that line, obviously, because I
think her mom is essentially her fairy godmother in the original.
The head bird is like perched on a tree that was grown right by her grave.
Yes.
From Cinderella's tears or whatever.
I think the grave and the tree are associated.
I think that the head bird who gives her the dress and everything is kind of an emissary of her mom. And then, I guess the other birds that kind of like, so the same thing where the stepmother is like, oh, you have too many chores to do. You'll never make it in time for the ball.
Right.
Happens in the original story. I didn't include it because it's just like not super interesting, but it happens here as well. And it's that the stepmom throws a pot of lentils into the fireplace and is like, you have to pick them all out. Whatever that happens in Into the Woods.
Yes.
And these birds pick out the lentils for her.
Yes.
It's a bunch of different birds. And so I think those birds are almost the employees of the head bird.
Oh, okay. They work for the head bird who might be working for the mom.
Right.
Okay.
So like those two pigeons are like that head bird's like friends, and they all like Cinderella.
Cinderella. It looks like you've gotten the lentils out of the fireplace, but why is all this bird dirt all over the floor around it?
And by the way,
it looks like you have way more work to do now than you did before.
And by the way, the birds get all the lentils out for her, and so technically it should be done. And then the stepmother is like, yes, this is done, except no. And she throws them all in again. What a bee.
Just light them on fire. Can you burn the lentils?
Yeah.
Why does that stop the fire from working or something?
No, she just doesn't want Cinderella to go.
No, I know, but it's like, oh no, something is in the fire pit.
It's just nonsense.
I'll just keep lighting it.
Yeah, I guess Cinderella could just light the lentils on fire and be done with it too, by the way.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
These people are all stupid is my point.
Yeah, it's true. So that happens for each of those sisters who cut off pieces of their feet. And after this happens 2 times, they both, after they cried this out, hang on a second. Okay, I got it. Okay. So then the prince knows that there is a third daughter in the house, and he wants to try the shoe on her. But they are hell-bent on keeping Cinderella down. They're like, oh no, you don't want to bother with our third daughter. She's horrible. Cinderella's dad says, no, our other daughter is deformed. You don't want to see her. And the stepmother's like, oh no, she's like too dirty. Like, you don't want to look at our third daughter.
There's no justification to explain why these people are so horrible.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They just decide that they just want to be awful.
Hashtag bad dad.
Absolutely bad dad. But the prince insists, and she ends up coming out and the golden shoe fits. So then it ends pretty quickly after that, but there's it doesn't really matter, but I just noticed it. There's a weird confusing focus on the right and the left. Here's a quote. As they passed by the hazel tree, this is now Cinderella on the horse with the prince. As they passed by the hazel tree, the two white pigeons cried out, "Rook-de-goo, rook-de-goo! No blood's in the shoe! The shoe's not too tight! This bride is right!" After they had cried this out, they both flew down and lit on Cinderella's shoulders, one on the right, the other on the left, and remained sitting there. When the wedding with the prince was to be held, the two false sisters came, the stepsisters, wanting to gain favor with Cinderella and share her good fortune. When the bridal couple walked into the church, the older sister walked on their right side and the younger on their left side, and the pigeons pecked out one eye from each of them. Afterwards, as they came out of the church, the older one was on the left side and the younger one on the right side, and the pigeons pecked out the other eye from each of them. And thus, for their wickedness and falsehood, they were punished with blindness as long as they lived.
Oh my God.
Whoa. So the point ends up being they plucked out both of their eyes, but I don't really know why there had to be this switcheroo where it was like they're on the right and the left. The pigeons took their outside eyes, then they switched, and then they took the new outside eyes. And so they took both.
It's because when you tell this to your horrified children at night, you want to have some fun wordplay. One on the right, one on the left, the little on the left, the one on the right, the eye on the left, the eye on the right. Now they're both bleeding, they're both screaming, and it's all covered in blood and they're blind.
The whole rest of the story wasn't like that. I don't know why. I don't know why that was.
Yeah, you're just scatting as you leave the door. You just shut the door on your children who are horrified in the night. Jesus Christ.
I would have liked to see the dad and stepmother get their just desserts.
No,
this certainly wasn't a story of just desserts for them.
They lived happily ever after, too.
But
they're also just fine.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And that's that.
That's like the one, I think. That's like the big crazy one. Cutting off parts of your feet to fit in the shoe. So
Rook-de-goo, rook-de-goo.
Rook-de-goo, rook-de-goo, Jack Black and Ed Swanson. What's his name?
Now I was going to say Ed Sullivan. That's not it. What is this
I think
man's
Ed
name?
Swanson is one of the fishermen from Blair Witch Project.
Helms.
Ed O'Neill.
Helms.
Ed Helms.
Yeah.
Are saying Rook-de-goo at you.
Yeah.
I remember in the Into the Woods Laserdisc we had,
Mm-hmm.
they filmed the Broadway show with, I think, the original Broadway cast, right?
Yep.
And it's outstanding. I really, really like
Yeah.
the show. And I remember when the sisters are cutting off parts of their feet, they do that Broadway trickery thing of like, but I still, in my memory, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if I, at 38 years old, watched it now, I would see where the switch happens or something.
You'd see a lot.
But I remember them...
There's also the what's it called? The
Big Bad
Wolf.
Yeah.
To drive home the sexual menace of that storyline has a man's penis.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. A hairy wolfman.
Shocking.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Mm-hmm. But I remember them showing a knife cutting into the feet, and then like chopping off a bit of heel, a bit of toe.
The heel really stands out for me.
Once in the shoe, then no one will know. Mm-hmm. And I remember like they cut off the parts of the feet, and then they thud to the stage floor with this like dull, like Play-Doh, like a ball of Play-Doh hitting wood kind of sound. And then they even pick it up and they're like, ah! They're like screaming. And I remember them jamming the shoe on their foot.
Yeah.
And then Prince Charming takes the shoe off and turns it over.
Yeah, pours
and blood just starts pouring out of it. And he like covers his face with a napkin because he's going to like vomit. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy, these stories.
Yeah.
Especially that's wild.
Yeah.
And then plucking the eyes out of the sisters. Mm-hmm. Holy shit.
I know.
That is kind of awesome. You don't need to make a Cinderella's Revenge. I'm sure people have done the following. I'm sure there have been attempts to do adaptations of the original Grimm's fairy tales that have fallen flat.
Right.
But I still think you could achieve that today, particularly in a Gretel and Hansel, Dave Eggers,
True.
Oz Perkins kind of world. You could absolutely, I feel, retell these original stories going back to the source material in a way that feels mythical rather than cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a wild story.
I know. It was nuts.
Cinderella.
So we are going to talk about Snow White in just a moment, but first we're going to talk about patreon.com/GTTUpod. This is where you can go to support the show. It's our small business.
Yes.
And we have a whole second podcast called The Netherworld Dispatch that comes out every Monday. We have a number of different tiers you can check out, see what works for you. We also have a Discord that you can join when you join our Patreon. We have a newsletter newsletter. We have movie commentaries for the Twilight movies, the Scream movies, all the Blair Witch movies except for the 2016 version, but we're going to record that soon. And it's really great. There's a ton of stuff over there. And a really nice thing is that when you join our Patreon at the $4 or up level, you get ad-free versions of Guides to the Unknown as well. So no ads whatsoever, nothing to fast forward.
Yes. You also get access, starting at the $4 tier, to Dead Time.
Yes.
With Kristen of Guide to the Unknown and Liz Sauer of Ghosts in the Burbs. A new episode literally dropped as we're recording. I didn't even get to finish it before we started doing this show.
Oh my God.
Kristen, delightful. Another triumph.
Fabulous.
Well done once again to Kristen and Liz. Dead Time rules.
Thank you very much. This is a monthly show where Liz and I watch paranormal reality shows. So this month we watched an episode of Paranormal State that was atrocious. What have they done?
I know, but your analysis, magnificent.
Thank you.
Our latest episode of the Netherworld Dispatch is episode 203, titled Stop Dancing.
Enough dancing, Sam Rockwell. What are you doing? Sam Rockwell, the robots, you all need to stop.
The old-fashioned dancing contortionist sisters?
Yeah, the Ross sisters.
Go check it out, everybody. Super fun episode. We react to like horror things on the internet. A lot of these things were dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's available out there. And we love reading reviews. I've got another lovely review for us from Gonzo Raider 79.
Oh my God.
He took a break from raiding gonzos to say, great for my commute.
Yeah.
This show is a great way to pass an hour on my drive home from work. Kristen and Will have a genuinely happy relationship that keeps every episode a pleasure to listen to.
Thank you.
5 stars.
Thank you so much. That is so nice. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
And thank you so much to everybody who leaves us reviews. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to people who are cruising looking for shows and they're like, oh, okay, I guess people like the show. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And that keeps us going. So thank you. You can leave us written reviews like that one on Apple Podcasts. You can leave us starred reviews on Spotify. We also really, really appreciate it when you share the show on Instagram stories and tag us. We'll always share those.
Especially right now.
Yes,
say you want to survive the night and tag @GTTU pod, get entered into the raffle to win some books.
Yeah, totally. So thank you so much. Anything that you do to share the show, we're so appreciative of. So
very
thank
grateful
you
of.
very much.
Huge help.
Yep.
All right, let's get into Snow White after one more commercial break.
There it is.
All right, Snow White time.
Yeah.
So let's start with this. What's your history with Snow White?
I also liked the movie Snow White.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically my history. I didn't like watch it as much, but I did like that movie.
I felt I had less familiarity with it. I obviously knew Snow White. I knew the 7 dwarfs. Could you name the 7 dwarfs?
That's a good question. Let me see. Sleepy, sneezy, grumpy, dopey, happy. Who else?
Yeah, that's about where I got before I personally started struggling.
I don't know. Who are the last 2?
Bashful and Doc.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
You'd think that it would be just one that breaks the naming scheme.
No, but 2. Yeah.
But there are 2 that don't end in E.
Yeah.
They're very weird. There was a, I'm going to focus on the Disney kind of like you did as well. But in looking at some behind the scenes, they had a bunch of rejected names. Okay. These were potential dwarves.
Yeah.
And it's debated. I guess Disney and the original story said dwarfs.
Okay.
But then starting with J.R.R. Tolkien, the term became dwarves with a V. So I keep going back and forth, and it's driving me crazy in my own. Yeah. So here are some rejected dwarves.
Okay.
Hoppy, Sneezy Wheezy.
Sneezy Wheezy. Okay.
Big O Ego. Or terrible. Oh, speaking of terrible, Awful.
Okay.
That was one of the names. Jumpy Boldy. Hickey, Sniffy, Stuffy, Shorty, Tubby, Biggie Wiggy.
I guess I'm not liking these 2 word.
I know, I don't like the 2 words. Blabby, Deafy, Dirty, Gabby, Gaspy, Gloomy.
Okay.
Hoppy Jumpy. Hotsy, the sexiest dwarf. Hotsy.
I don't know about that.
Wore little hot pants.
Yeah.
And one of those little pointed caps that revealed a little too much.
Ooh.
Jaunty. Nifty, Shifty, Dizzy, and my least favorite rejected dwarf name, Burpee.
Burpee. He would definitely be burping. That was gonna be a bit.
Oh yeah. Forget that.
Yeah.
Evidently, another behind the scenes thing for Disney when they were working on the movie. Evidently, within Disney Studios, they were offering a $5 bounty. Anybody who can come up with a cute little gag for the dwarves to do, you can get $5.
Okay.
And so people were pitching endlessly, like, here's something cute they could do. Here's something else. Like a Burpee can burp all over. He can burp right in Snow White's face. All right, here's $5 to you.
Weird.
And as a result, most of the movie is just cute gags with these little old men.
Really?
Oh, it's so annoying. They're always just being sweet, especially bashful. I do not like a depiction of a little old man with white hair being like, oh, shucks.
No.
And they're always sort of like, oh, it's just gross. They look like all nuzzly and
Ew.
Dopey's supposed to be kind of cute. He keeps trying to get extra kisses from Snow White at one point. But I'm
This is not for me.
Not
like
for me,
acting
no.
like toddlers. Kind
Yes,
of?
yes, it's very strange.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Let's talk Snow White.
Yeah.
Here's the story. Came out in 1937. First animated feature-length film,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Our dad would have been 3 when this came out.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any chance that he was aware of it, because this would have
Yeah.
been historical
Right.
at the time, especially.
Yeah, that's huge.
You know?
Yeah.
So, first words of the movie. Well, actually, even before the movie really kicks off, it does this old animation thing that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
Where it's live footage of a book.
Oh, yeah.
And then the cover of the book opens and the pages turn.
Yeah.
And it says on the page, like, there was a girl named Snow White whose skin was as fair as snow and hair was as dark as shit.
Yeah.
Cheeks were all red and rupee rosy, whatever.
Rupee rosy.
Don't remember what it said.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's fine.
when it gets in it, but I like that. I like that like book coming off
I
the
do
shelf
too.
aesthetic. That happens most famously to me in Sleepy
Same,
Hollow, which I watch every single year. But
Yeah.
I love it. It's just like very evocative of old Disney, old animation.
Yep.
And then we're into it. The evil queen, whose name I never remembered hearing spoken out loud,
Yeah. What is it?
but I saw it on the internet. Grimm Hilda.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I don't know.
You could not have paid me to come up with that.
First words of the movie. She approaches her magic mirror. Slave in the magic mirror, come from the farthest space. Through wind and darkness I summon thee. Speak, let me see thy face.
Ooh.
Cool spell.
Yeah, this is a little
Slave in the
scary.
magic mirror?
Yeah. Yikes.
What?
Yes.
Who's he?
Yeah.
Who's the guy?
Right.
That's a guy?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Is it a magical guy that she has enslaved, or is it a real human being who's been killed and now trapped in a mirror?
It kind of feels like that because isn't it like a weird green face?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks like a mask.
Right.
It looks like the tragedy and comedy masks,
Yeah,
essentially. It's so strange, but word 1 of Snow White is slave.
Yeah.
Good God.
Not good.
That I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
what? It's like
It's
startled
also
me.
so old. Like there's just like
I
not
don't have any
much
faith.
distance.
I don't have any faith in
Yeah.
at all. No, as we should be
Yeah.
skeptical.
Yeah.
So,
Doesn't feel good.
rough news. Oh, dip. Turns out Snow White
Uh-oh.
is fairer than the evil queen.
Yeah.
And so she instantly, we're going from 0 to 100. This movie just gets going.
Yeah.
Okay. They take that get to it. That's their mantra. She says, I can't have that.
Right.
So she hires a huntsman to take Snow White into the woods, kill her, and bring proof.
Right.
This is where I'm like, Disneyfying things is something different in 1937. She
Definitely.
says, put her heart in this box and bring
Yes.
it back to me. Oh my God.
You know, I'm remembering, I think Mom thought this was, I remember watching as a kid, but I know she thought this was like a scary one. She was not so hot on this one.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
This one's pretty
Yeah.
freaky deaky, pretty spooky. I don't remember what it was now. I watched something with Mom and with Zoe in the last handful of weeks. And I love watching these sort of like things that you and I have definitely seen as kids. I
Yeah.
love watching them with Mom now with my children.
Right.
Because the expression on Mom's face as it dawns on her like, holy shit.
Yeah, right.
I was showing this to my children 40 years ago. Yeah. It's like it's a genuine dawning realization of horror.
Yeah.
These things are so scary.
Yeah.
So scary. So the huntsman takes Snow White into the woods. He's going to kill her.
Yeah.
Until she cries and begs for her life. And he's like, you're right, I can't do it. So instead he kills a pig and puts the pig's heart in a box to bring it back instead. I mean, you don't see it.
Yeah.
But Snow White then, this is an awesome sequence. And this straight up, this also felt like Sleepy Hollow. She goes running through the woods because he's basically like, well, then you must run and never come back. And so Snow White goes running off into the woods. And it's this old Disney animation stuff of like the tree. And I'm sure this is partly what infected my mind.
Yeah.
The trees, now their branches look like reaching hands.
Oh.
And there are like the equivalent of like fireflies in a tree hollow to almost make the trees look like they have faces that are watching her.
Ooh.
And it's all just like scary, the woods are alive kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
honestly recommend you go check it out. It's very Sleepy Hollow.
That's
it's
cool.
so good. And she eventually finds the house of the 7 dwarves.
Yeah.
When she goes in, she's so exhausted, she crashes,
Yeah.
takes a nap, and the dwarves come home from mining for jewels
Yeah.
and discover her. And then they're basically just cute together for like a half hour.
Yeah.
It's like they clean together.
That's nice.
There's like a whole sequence where the dwarves are taking like a nap, and here's how each one of them snores. It's like, oh,
Okay.
God.
Yeah.
Can
Got
we move it along?
Yeah.
This thing kicked off like a rocket.
Yeah.
And then it's the sweetness
It's
of
the
these.
cutie hour.
It's the cutie hour. So, time for the shockaroo. When the queen asks the mirror again, who's the fairest one of all?
Oh, boy.
Thinking, well, now Snow White's dead in the ground.
Yeah.
She planted
I'm
her
in good
6
shape.
feet under. But the mirror's like, through the woods in the house of the dwarf. Like he totally doxes Snow
Yeah.
White and is like, she's living in the dwarf's house in the woods. And the queen is like, well, then I'll have to go myself.
Yeah.
And she starts off as this like elegant, sort of like poised,
Yeah.
stern looking person.
Oh, yeah.
But she realizes that she sent a fool to do the job. She's got to do it herself. And so she does a spell. The whole spell is awesome. I'm going to read it to you. She needs to go in disguise. She says, now a formula to transform my beauty into ugliness. Change my queenly raiment to a peddler's cloak. And then she's doing like a recipe.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So she's literally pouring things into like a vial. Mummy dust to make me old. So she's going to drink mummy dust.
Cool.
This is also like old world stuff where it was like,
Yeah.
mummy dust, sprinkle it in your coffee in the morning. Makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
Whatever. She's going to, a powdered mummy.
Yeah.
To shroud my clothes, the black of night. She pours in. To
Wonder what that
age
was.
my voice, an old hag's cackle. And now you see this like material going through all these tubes before it comes out as a drip into
Oh,
the
yeah.
potion. And it's
Yeah.
making a sound as it goes like, yeah.
This is scary.
It's so good. To whiten my hair, a scream of fright. And another drop goes in, and this billowing cloud comes up out of the concoction, goes, whoa, and the cloud looks like a screaming face.
Yeah.
A blast of wind to fan my hate. She throws open the windows. A thunderbolt to mix it well. The lightning strikes. Now begin thy magic spell. And she drinks the potion. And it's painful.
Yeah.
She's like undulating and like the camera's swirling around.
Yeah.
Swirling around her. And she goes, look, my hands. And her like nice queen hands become like longer, and it's like a werewolf transformation. So
Yeah.
it looks like American Werewolf in London. Her
Yeah.
fingers get longer and there are warts all over her hands. Her voice is changing. She even goes, my voice, as the queen's voice becomes the witch's voice.
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it turns out that some behind the scenes, I should have the performer's name. I don't. They were like, we want the voice to change, so we'll bring someone in for that. And she goes, no, I can do that.
Oh, nice.
And she took her teeth out.
Oh, cool.
And that's how she became the witch.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's like very classic, like Sam Raimi Evil Dead witch.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's awesome. And then she has to pick a spell to kill Snow White. So she chooses obviously the poison apple. She goes, her breath will still, her blood congeal. Now I'll be the fairest in the land. And she goes sneaking off to Snow White's house. And the dwarves are like, we're going off to the mine. Don't let anybody in.
Yeah.
And Snow White's like cleaning up the house when all of a sudden the witch is just in the window.
Yeah.
She's just like basically leaning on the windowsill, immediately just talking to her. And she's got these big bulbous white eyes.
Yeah.
And she's like, you got to make an apple pie. In fact, you should eat this apple.
Yeah.
She says it's a wishing apple. Make a wish, eat the apple.
Okay.
Snow White, of course, is dreaming of love.
Yeah.
Right? So she bites into the apple and falls down dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't expect this to happen. Do you know what happens next?
I don't know. All I remember is that she's like, doesn't she need like true love's kiss to wake her up or something?
She does, which is very Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
I think I always get the two mixed up in my head.
But no.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
What happens next is the queen, great, you're going to be the fairest in the land, except you just did the spell to turn you into...
Yeah, an Uggo.
An Uggo. She walks out the front door and instantly the dwarves are coming back.
Oh.
All the woodland creatures are also friends with Snow White and they warned the dwarves. So they come rushing back and the queen has to run for her life. She ends up climbing to the top of this craggy mountain.
Uh-huh.
And she gets up high and there's a huge boulder. And she's standing at the edge of like a cliff and she takes like a stick and she's trying to wedge the boulder so that it'll go rolling down the mountain and crush the dwarves.
Oh.
And the dwarves are even like, look out, she's going to kill us all. She'll kill us all, run.
Oh my God.
But then lightning strikes the cliff that the queen is on and it breaks the ground and she goes falling and the boulder rolls the wrong way and the boulder goes down after her. So the queen, as the old witch form, falls down the mountain. We don't see this, we only hear this.
Yeah.
And the boulder comes down on top of her and crushes her.
So she's just dispatched.
She's just
So she's created this problem.
Immediately dies.
Huh. Okay.
Immediately dies by being crushed by a boulder.
Huh.
Which is gnarly, but Snow White is dead.
Yeah.
However, Snow White is like as iconic as Cinderella. They put her in the glass coffin.
Yeah.
Because they're like, she's so beautiful, we can't bury her in the dirt.
Right.
Which is a weird
It's very weird.
thing.
She's not going to stay like that forever.
And then a prince comes along and pretty much is like, huh? She's dead?
I'll kiss her.
Yeah. He just opens the thing and kisses her.
That's so weird.
And then she wakes up, she's alive now, and then she just says goodbye to the dwarves. And the movie ends.
Okay.
Okay?
That's so weird.
What? So that's the Disney version. And I would argue, I don't know if you can get it from the tone of my voice, I think the Disney version is like a horror movie.
No, yeah.
This
is very
it's
strange.
Pretty scary.
Yes.
Like the reputation, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I think they would beat a dead horse in a Disney movie. They don't hold back. They don't defang. If anything, I feel like Disney is one of the first places that people ever get exposed to horror. So here's the original story. It was first published in 1812. Here are the relevant bits that are different.
Yeah.
And it's almost like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's very, very close. A touch gnarlier. The queen doesn't want Snow White's heart as proof that the huntsman killed her.
Yeah.
She wants the huntsman to bring back Snow White's lungs and liver so that she can eat them.
Oh, okay. All right. I wonder if she thinks that's going to make her more beautiful or something.
I guess it does. It does feel like some like weird old world remedy type stuff, right? Like eat the lungs and liver of a young one and you'll gain their vitality.
Yeah, like Elizabeth Bathory bathing in the blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That new Brian Johnson fella.
Yes.
Yes. I still want to do an Immortality People show. Similar to Cinderella, Disney streamlined things by and large. In the movie that we got, she tries to kill her with the poisoned apple. In the original story, she has to try 3 times to kill her.
Oh.
It's the same thing as Cinderella.
Huh.
First, she shows up in a disguise and offers Snow White a bodice. This is weird.
Okay.
She has to put on a bodice and then the evil queen laces it so tight that she suffocates.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Does that ring a bell?
Actually, yeah.
This story,
I feel like bodices might come up in Grimm's fairy tales a few times.
that's a bit of like gnarliness of real life of the era for sure. That was like the technology of the day where somebody was like, let's invent the bodice. Then people are like, this has horror potential written all over it.
Yeah.
You tightly lace up your ribs and lungs. So the queen suffocates Snow White, but the dwarves come home and see what's going on and cut the laces of it, and she's able to
breathe.
So she has to try again. Oh, shit. So she goes back in another disguise, and this time she brings along a poisoned comb. This is weird.
Yes.
You remember this?
Yes, I do.
Where would you... This was not in Into the Woods?
Well, because I used to like reading Grimm's fairy tales. Remember I have that book that's here, Sniff the Book?
Oh, right. This was the Sniff the Book show.
Yeah. So when we did that previous Grimm's Fairy Tales episode 120 or whatever, I brought over this like way old Grimm's Fairy Tales book that was, I think, our mom's book that I liked reading when I was a kid. And so we record live on youtube.com/gttupod. We record on Wednesday mornings around 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. And it's an old book. People in the chat were talking about how old books smell good or something. And you know, we don't look at the chat a ton when we are recording. We look at it before we start and afterward. But our mom was in the chat, and so she saw what people were saying, and our mom called us as we were recording, and because it's our mom, and it's like, oh, what if something is wrong or something? We picked up the phone, we pick up, and she just goes, "Sniff the book." And we're like, what?
I totally forgot about that. I have it right here.
Yeah.
I just found it while you were talking. Grimm's Fairy Tales. Mm-hmm. And it's got some young fella. This is the reason why people don't like fairy tales, by the way. Yeah. You see some dude wearing like a hat with a long feather sticking out of it, gently feeding a goose in a lake.
Yeah.
Like, you just think about them as being so whimsical and sweet.
Right. And on the inside, I wrote Krista a million times in crayon because I briefly flirted with being called Krista.
Oh my God. Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm. Huh, how about that?
Yeah.
Krista. Why'd you have to write it so many times?
I don't know.
Krista. Were you doing a spell?
Maybe. I don't even remember wanting to be called Krista. I only know because it's there.
Some evil shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder when this book was published. It's like basically falling apart in my hands. It says copyright 1917, but that doesn't tell me when this edition came out.
William, sniff the book.
Okay, listen if I must.
And by the way, our mom was being very helpful by calling us, letting us know what the people wanted.
I won't lie, I was slightly startled.
It was jarring.
Smells like book.
Yeah?
Yeah, here, give it a whiff.
Yep. Yeah, it smells like an old book. It's a nice smell.
It is a nice smell.
It's very light.
Smelling
very
a tree.
light smell.
I actually opened to the page of Snow White.
Oh, that worked out.
Tell me, glass, tell me true, of all the ladies in the land, who is fairest? Tell me who. Let's say that...
And there are obviously different editions of all these stories.
Yeah, the Grimm brothers, Wilhelm and Jacob, I think. Right now I'm just sort of reciting off the top of my head. They would release multiple editions. And so they were like working on these stories periodically, like every few years they would sort of rewrite them. Yeah. You know, which is also kind of cool. I love the idea of like, you don't like the stories are bound to change regardless anyway in the retelling. It's kind of neat to like publish your own work and then also be like, let's go back in and retool it ourselves. Yeah. You know?
But sorry, I interrupted. I just, like, you talking about the comb was like, oh my God, that's right. Like, the concept of a poisoned comb to me was like, what the hell?
Yeah. So, other things that change in the original story. Attempt 2 is the poisoned comb. Yeah. And the comb is like lodged in Snow White's hair, which is weird. And the dwarves come when they pull the comb out. Right. Like I see these two things and I do just see like the potential to be like, well, cut those out. Poisoned apple is kind of the coolest. It makes the most sense. Yeah. Like you've ingested poison that I can grasp a lot more easily. Yeah. And then I was actually curious because I wondered if I could see in the actual book how they would describe this, but she does still end up in the book. She doesn't get poisoned by the apple so much as she's choking on it. Oh, okay. And they end up trying to move the glass coffin, and the apple becomes dislodged. Yes. But so there is comeuppance. There is comeuppance. Here, let's just try this. Ready? To the feast was asked among the rest Snow White's old enemy, the queen. There was a feast. Yeah. And as she was dressing herself in fine rich clothes, she looked in the glass and said, "Tell me, glass, tell me true, of all the ladies in the land, who is fairest? Tell me who." And the glass answered, Thou, lady, art loveliest here, I ween, but lovelier far is the new-made queen. When she heard this, she started with rage, but her envy and curiosity were so great she could not help setting out to see the bride. And when she got there, and saw that it was no other than Snow White, who, as she thought had been dead a long while, she choked with rage and fell down and died. That's, what? That's different from the original. That's different from the original.
Yeah.
That's weird, in fact.
Yes, it is.
You choke with rage and fall down and die?
Well,
You just go like, you choke yourself just because you're so mad.
Bacon style.
Fall down to you. Yeah. In the original incarnation of the story, Snow White and the prince put a pair of iron shoes into burning coals. And then they're brought forth with tongs and placed before the queen, the evil queen. She's forced to step into the red-hot shoes and dance until she falls down
dead. That's crazy. That is nuts.
So 3 versions of the evil queen getting killed. And two of them are better than the third.
That's really gnarly.
Step into these burning iron shoes and dance for us.
Snow White's a sicko.
Yeah, that's real sick.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then I'm guessing this edition, the Sniff the Book edition that I'm holding is them being like, people being like, hey, Grimms.
Yeah.
You say these are stories for kids. What's wrong with you? Like, people have been saying that since the beginning, that the Grimm's fairy tales are not for kids. Even when they published their first edition, you think about everyone being gnarlier in the old days.
Yeah.
But even the general population, when the book came out, they were like, what the hell, Grimm?
Yeah. I think it needs an edit.
Yeah. And so I guess they edited it to, she choked in a rage and died, which doesn't.
That's nothing.
That's bizarre to me.
Maybe they were bitter about having to change, and they're like, okay, sure, we'll change it to this
to crap.
Yeah.
To crap.
Crap.
And then Disney arguably came along and made it better again.
Yes, I agree.
I think the happenstance of lightning strikes, whatever, but magic happens in these stories. You know, that could have been some sort of a godly comeuppance. But the idea that the queen ends up falling and getting crushed by a boulder, that's pretty wild to me too.
Yeah. It's a little unsatisfying. It sounds like the end of it is like all of a sudden, like she's just dispatched just by nature.
Yeah.
Kind of.
No, that's true. You're right.
There's no, I
agree with you. It's not poetic. It's just, okay, well, the story's got to wrap up.
Right.
But there, something about having a boulder crush onto it's very Looney Tunes. Like, it is very familiar, cartoony. Like, how many times have you seen Wile E. Coyote get crushed? Wile E. Coyote gets the evil queen death a million ways.
The evil queen treatment.
But I guess also her being like a witch, it made me think of like the Salem witch trials and getting like smushed by stone. Like it read less as zany and off-screen stupid, and to me, in my head at least, interpreting she falls and gets crushed by a boulder, it played way more gnarly in my imagination.
Yeah. I can see that.
And then I guess I'll leave you with this. The dwarves in the original story, they don't have names.
Right.
The first time they were given names was in 1912 in a Broadway play. And it wasn't Sleepy, Sneezy, whatever. It's no better, it's no worse. I don't want to give you the impression that this is going to blow your hair back.
Okay.
Blick, Flick, Glick, Snick, Plick, Whick, and Quee.
Okay.
Just kind of an odd,
it's just
odd
different.
morsel of trivia.
Yeah, exactly. It's just interesting.
And then Disney is like, we can give them better names than that.
Yeah, right.
But then they had this horrible time being like, how about Jumpy Baldy?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
what?
I'm surprised they really went through it, getting to where we got.
Yeah, much to do about nothing.
Yes.
And actually, here's the real sneaky secret PS to the Snow White story. I thought that part of my research would be looking at the new Rachel Ziegler Snow White. Because I thought it came out like 2 years ago. It hasn't even come out yet.
No.
And in the worst timing imaginable, it actually comes out this month in like a couple of weeks.
Well, this will be existing online for.
I know, but we're too early to talk about it. But I also feel now.
I mean, would you want to go see it? And
no, but the 1937 movie, this was just like a curiosity to me. They talk in the production about like, well, we really started getting to work at like 1934 of this, and I'm like, 3 years. Okay, 3 years from like, let's have the idea to finish the movie. And it's an animated movie, very ambitious, whatever. Dude, I feel like we've been talking about this Rachel Ziegler Snow White. I feel like we've been talking about this thing for like 6 years. I feel like
I've been aware of it for a very long time.
What's going on? What is why is this thing taking so long? And I don't know if you know, but like this thing has been dogged by controversy, like a million ways. People are pissed that it's Rachel Ziegler because she's not white.
Yes.
Like, oh no.
Of course.
Oh no. This is like fanciful animated story. Right. How could they, Kristen? You're ruining my grandpa's childhood.
I know.
Stupid.
It's totally
stupid. But then there's all this stuff about the dwarves.
Yeah.
You know about this?
Remind me.
So, evidently, what's his name from Game of Thrones?
Peter Dinklage?
Peter Dinklage had said, and I don't want to tell tales out of school, but Peter Dinklage had said at some point, he's like, really? You're going to do Snow White again? Like, okay, so the silly dwarves bit is pretty stereotypical, don't you think? And so Disney was like, uh-oh, well, what do we do?
Right.
But then, and so they started to cast... They were like, we're not going to, we won't have little people play these roles then, because that would be awful. But then all these little people, actors came out and they were like, Peter Dinklage is not some sort of like,
he's not a monolith.
He doesn't speak for, that may be his opinion.
Or like, we're not monolith.
Yeah, that may be his opinion, but like, those are jobs.
Yeah, right.
Like what? And so now the dwarves and the in the trailers, they're CGI.
Right.
They're still dwarves, but now they're not played by little people. They're just CGI creatures in a sense. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And then you heard, I think, that Rachel Ziegler twerks in the new movie. Because I was lying to you and I said that in the hopes that you'd believe me.
Right. And then you denied that it was a lie, weirdly. And I was like, what? You executed it in the weirdest way?
So that's part of the story?
You didn't tell me that Rachel Ziegler twerks. You told me that there was controversy because there was going to be, I don't remember who you said it was, but that there was going to be a song called Whistle While You Twerk on the soundtrack.
Damn it.
And that it was a whole thing. And I was like, what? I don't think so. And you were like, no, seriously, it's a thing. And I was like, okay. And then I looked it up.
Damn it.
And it was nowhere. And then I said to you, did you think you did like a classic William lie to me and told me about Whistle While You're Twerking? You were like, no. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the hell's going on here. So,
well, I had to desperately try to keep it together.
No. You may as well just given it up because it wasn't a good one.
You had. Yeah. You figured it out pretty much immediately. It's like I was trying to do an impression of myself.
Yeah, kind of.
Trying to harken back to days when I was a better liar.
That wasn't a good one.
No.
In a Disney movie, it's me whistle while you twerk. I don't think so.
Well, I think my thing was like, but this might have been too inside baseball even because like I know from Zoe that all the soundtracks to these movies, you'll have Elsa singing her songs, but then you will have pop stars do pop star versions.
No, I know.
So I think I was trying to say
twerk. I know what you were going for, but that's just a bridge too far.
If you enjoy my thought process and my writing, clearly I'm still good at ideas. Check out Survive the Night, everybody. It's on Amazon right now. Links in the show notes. Going to be on the shelves at Target, Walmart. Join the raffle. Become a patron. You're already in. Yeah. Post, hey, at GTTU Pod, I think I could survive the night. You'll be entered a second time. Let's pretend that I did a better job.
Hey, they can't all be A+. You've gotten me many times before.
That's true. That's true. All right. Yeah. A dud. What's the word?
That's okay.
It's just a dud here or there.
Totally.
I might pinch off a dud occasionally. Is that so wrong?
No, don't we all?
Survive the Night's a gem. It's fun. Yeah. It's a good time. Go check it out.
All right. Well, there you go, everybody. We hope you thought this one was a gem. Go to our Patreon if you want more from us. We have so many episodes of the Netherworld Dispatch. Like what, 200?
Over 200.
4 or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can also follow us on social media. We are at GTTUpod, and we are also there individually. I'm at Chillin' Kristen.
I'm at The Myth Traveler. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We hope you had a good time. I really enjoyed this. I like looking at these gnarly little stories.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week for Twin Peaks. We're going to be doing episodes 1 through 16 of season 2. So if you want to marathon that's what you got to do. Once again, watch the first 9 episodes of season 2, not the first 16. Good God. We always start spoiler free. Don't you worry about that. But that's going to be a ton of fun. Very surreal, very weird, very horrific.
Yeah.
But until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the netherworld go we. Whistling all the way. Whistling while we twerk.
Whistling while I twerk.
Yeah.
So stupid. Into the Woods is awesome.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we could cover that someday. Just the gnarliness.
Yeah.
Or like even look at clips of it or something.
There's a bunch of gnarly stuff.
It's pretty rough. Yeah.
Maybe we could do that on the Netherworld Dispatch.
Boom. This is a cliffhanger to the next Netherworld Dispatch coming on Monday, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm down with that.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Tight.